Look, we all miss watching Caitlin Clark play, right? I mean, there's a million different ways you could talk about her impact and how she's captivated fans. And even as the Fever are doing what they're doing, there's still that thought of what if, or what would it look like if she was out on the floor? And we all think that. We all feel that, right? Which is exemplified by a video that was floating around earlier today. This is Clark getting some shots up at Gamebridge. I have no idea when this was taken. People were passing it off as today. You can see Stephanie White, it looks like, with her, Clark getting some shots up. As far as the date of this filming or the origin of the video, I don't know. I remember ESPN showing some similar footage before one of the Fever games, maybe before the first round started against the Atlanta Dream, at least, the Fever's home game in that series. So perhaps it's from that time frame. I don't know why she would be on the Gainbridge court when they have a practice court in this context. If you look at all the other Fever media from today, it's over from practice. So this is just that thirst to see Caitlin Clark play basketball and get involved in the action. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. It's been clarified already that she can't return in the postseason. But then there was a little bit of extra interesting clarification that came today about her not being even ready to return for the postseason. Scott Agness was on, of Fieldhouse Files, was on with Rachel DeMita, who I was in a post game with Rosalina Lee and Mick and Venom the other day. We were chopping it up, and she does a great job, of course. And she had Scott on her show. You can check the full link in the description. But this is what he had to say about Clark's status. And really, he caught some heat for the way the ankle injury was reported and the like. But I'm from everything I understand, he's been spot on.
Can you clear this up? Is there in any world where Caitlin could come back during these playoffs?
And they're starting by addressing this internet rumor that there's some sort of loophole that would allow her to come back, like Dantas's concussion.
First of all, she's not returning. Listen, she is not returning, period. Now, let's go to what you just read. First of all, I don't know where that's from. I tried to Google it, use AI. I could not find where that was from. I also went to the WNBA collective bargaining agreement, saw no such thing that existed. And then on top of that, like, the reality is she's not in a position to play. I posted the video down in Atlanta, and I strategically saved that to after game 3. That was, 5 hours till before game 3. And I'm like, look, Caitlin, she's not going to play. This isn't a return. Let's hold this. And the focus should be on this game in these players. And then absolutely going to put that out because fans want to see it. They want to see any glimpse of what Caitlin's doing. And I thought I saw there, and then again in the video, she was still favoring that left ankle. She was not running completely smooth. Now, given it's early in the morning, that was like the first 10 minutes of shoot around, shot it well, but she's been able to shoot through all of this over the last several months.
And, what Scott said has been in line with everything I've heard, which is that Clark had recovered from the groin injury. Essentially, it was ready to make her return from the groin injury when the ankle injury happened. And remember, this is not a sprained ankle, it's a bone bruise. Brianna Stewart missed a big chunk of time this season with a bone bruise in her knee. And this is a bone bruise of the ankle. So Clark was just not ready to go full bore, and the ankle was indeed the setback. I mean, they put out that statement that said, how can the timeline be disrupted when there is no timeline? Bit of a, it's like the multiverse in Marvel movies, right? Like anything can happen if you've got a multiverse because you can bounce from one universe to the next universe and all that. And I don't know if they knew at the time that it would hamper her the way it did. That's sort of my understanding too, that maybe even she didn't think it would be, but like a little bit of a blip, and it wound up lingering and is just the, accumulation of injuries that Clark has gone through. And it just, the season that wasn't meant to be, unfortunately, for Cece. But she's not coming back in the playoffs, as you heard stated there. It was the ankle that set back the progress that she was making from the groin. And now we're just going to have to wait a long time barring offseason play. It's still, up in the air whether she plays in the offseason. That's not official. But until I get word of that, until that's announced, I'll assume otherwise. And that has us all longing to see Cece. We waited a long time in the last offseason, which made it more disappointing because there were some great moments, even in the glimpses that Clark took the floor this year, right? Like the Iowa game against Brazil, you bet, big time moment. The Liberty game where she hit the 3 threes in the 38 seconds or whatever it was. Even the Connecticut Sun game, as much as that one went awry, the fiery spirit that she showed in going up against JC Sheldon and talking smack to her, held the season opener a triple-double as they blew out the Chicago Sky. And then that little stretch when she had come back and she was even limited and they dog walked the Dallas Wings and the Atlanta Dream. So when it was announced that she was out, I think I've said it before. It's not usually the case where like you grieve an athlete's injury, but it certainly felt that way. And, it felt that way to her fans and people at large. And it's, she's so part of the experience, such a driving force behind the explosion and the growth of the league. I mean, even if you go back to the All-Star game, right? Her wearing that shirt, the pay us what you owe us. My joke has been pay us what you owe her. But Caitlin Clark standing out there in that shirt, that was something that drew a lot of attention, right? Like that her wearing it has a huge impact, even though she wasn't playing in the All-Star game. And people are focused on the Air Forces that she's wearing, her Air Force Ones. Because I'll get to stomping in my Air Force Ones that Caitlin has been sporting. Like all of these things are storylines within this, but we just got to come to grips with it, right? Like it ain't happening. It ain't happening, as you heard Scott say there, and Caitlin say, right? Like Caitlin told us as much. She put out the statement. Disappointed isn't enough of a word to express how I feel. So I don't know, where Caitlin Clark was shooting, what she's doing, what the practice footage looks like, what her training regimen looks like, but it ain't for a return against the Aces or even in the WNBA finals. And it continues to be a shame and about as big a bummer as there possibly could be.